What if I told you the America you know was built not by giants, but by rebels, by outcasts, by ordinary people who dared to do the extraordinary? 21 names, 21 legends, but they're real stories? Jefferson's shocking hypocrisy, the teenage French aristocrat who outsmarted the British, the enslaved woman who became a spy, the battles, the betrayals, the sacrifices. History tried to erase them, but their legacies? Unstoppable. 21 episodes. One question: would you have had the courage to stand with them? Sit down. Take a moment. Let history come alive as we tell the stories of these 21 legends. Subscribe now. History starts here. Part 1. The Founding Fathers. What if I told you America's greatest heroes weren't just politicians, but rebels, visionaries, and even flawed men who changed the world? From Washington's impossible victories to Hamilton's meteoric rise, these 7 founding fathers didn't just fight for freedom, they invented it. But behind the legends lie shocking secrets. Jefferson's hypocrisy, Franklin's betrayal, and the duel that killed a genius. Who are these men really? And would they even recognize the America they built? Thanks to AI, History Comes Alive brings their untold stories back from the dead. Strap in. This is the Founding Fathers like you've never seen them before. Number 1. George Washington, 1732 to 1799. The man who defied history itself. Here's why no American leader has ever matched his legacy. At age 21, he started a world war by ambushing French soldiers. That's right, the future peacemaker sparked the French and Indian War. As commander-in-chief, he lost more battles than he won, but never surrendered. His secret? He outlasted enemies. 6 brutal years of war, frozen winters, starving troops. Yet he kept the revolution alive. Elected president in 1789, he invented democracy as we know it. No crown, no fancitaites, just 2 simple terms. And when Congress begged for a third, he walked away, creating America's greatest tradition. Even in death, he made history, the only founding father to free his slaves. 123 human beings granted freedom in his will. Could any modern leader match Washington's sacrifice? Comment legend if you think they exist, or missing if America needs another Washington today. Number 2. The founding father who wrote liberty for all, but kept slaves. Thomas Jefferson's shocking double life. Born in 1743, died in 1826. America's 3rd president was its greatest contradiction. He authored the Declaration of Independence at 33, declaring all men equal. Yet he enslaved over 600 people, including Sally Hemings, with whom DNA evidence confirms he fathered children. As president, he doubled America's size with the Louisiana Purchase. He founded universities and fought for religious freedom. But recent discoveries reveal the painful truth. Jefferson lived a secret life that contradicted his public ideals. Historians still battle over his legacy. Was he a product of his time? Or did he have the power to change history and refuse? Recent DNA evidence proved what historians long suspected. Jefferson fathered children with an enslaved woman. This wasn't just hypocrisy, it was betrayal of his own ideals. So we have to ask, did Jefferson fail America, or did America fail to live up to Jefferson? Sound off in the comments. Number 3. What if I told you America's first celebrity wasn't a movie star or athlete, but a 70-year-old scientist who partied in France and outsmarted lightning? Meet Benjamin Franklin, 1706 to 1790. The founding father who lived like a rock star. Born in Boston as the 15th of 17 children, Franklin was the ultimate self-made man. At 12, he was a printer's apprentice. By 22, he was publishing his own newspaper under a fake name. And by 42, he proved lightning was electricity with a kite, then invented the lightning rod, saving countless lives. But Franklin's genius wasn't just scientific, it was political. At 70, He convinced France to bankroll the American Revolution, turning the tide against Britain. The French loved him so much. They called him Le Bonhomme Richard and put his face on everything, from snuff boxes to chamber pots. Yet behind the fame lay a painful sacrifice. His son, William, remained loyal to Britain, tearing their family apart. Franklin never forgave him. So here's the question. Was Franklin a hero for choosing country over family? Or did his ambition come at too high a price? Let us know in the comments. Number 4. He was the most unpopular president in early America, hated by his friends, betrayed by his allies, and forgotten by history. Yet without him, the United States might not exist. John Adams, 1735 to 1826, a poor farmer's son, became a lawyer who defended British soldiers after the Boston Massacre, declaring facts are stubborn things. Yet he later pushed hardest for American independence, handpicked Washington to lead the army, and served as the nation's first vice president, calling the job the most insignificant office ever invented. As president, he avoided war with France but signed the Alien and Sedition Acts, destroying his reputation. After losing to Jefferson in 1800, he left the White House in disgrace. But in a final twist, the two rivals reconciled through letters, dying hours apart on July 4th. 1826, America's 50th birthday. Adams' last words? Jefferson survives. So why don't we remember him like Washington or Jefferson? Was he too stubborn, too honest, or the founder who sacrificed fame to build a nation? Tell us below. Number 5. He was an orphan immigrant who became the architect of America's economy. Yet, he died in a duel before he turned 50. This is the story of Alexander Hamilton, 1755 to 1804, one of America's most influential founding fathers. Born in poverty in the Caribbean, he arrived in New York as a teenager and fought in the Revolutionary War. But his real legacy? He built America's financial system from scratch. As the first U.S. Treasury Secretary, Hamilton created the National Bank, established the dollar, and convinced states to pay war debts, saving the young nation from collapse. His rival, Thomas Jefferson, called him a man of sharp intellect but dangerous ambition. Yet, Hamilton's life was full of drama, a sex scandal, a bitter feud with Aaron Burr, and a tragic duel that cut his life short at 49. But his ideas lived on. The U.S. economy, the New York Post, even the Broadway musical Hamilton, all bear his mark. If Hamilton hadn't died so young, how different would America be today? Comment below. Number 6. He stood just 5'4", yet shaped a nation that would tower over the world. This is James Madison, 1751 to 1836. America's forgotten genius. The 4th president, but his true title? Architect of America. Born sickly and bookish, Madison fought not with muskets but with ink and ideas. When the Articles of Confederation failed, he secretly drafted the Virginia Plan, the blueprint for the U.S. Constitution. Critics called it a power grab. Small states revolted, yet Madison, the quiet strategist, compromised just enough to unite them. Then came his masterstroke, the Bill of Rights. Initially resistant, he flipped the script, drafting 10 amendments that eternally shielded liberty. Free speech, religious freedom, due process, all his handiwork. So why don't we remember him like Washington or Jefferson? Because Madison didn't seek glory. He built a system to outlive him. And today, 200 plus years later, his Constitution still stands. Final question. If Madison saw America today, would he cheer or demand a new convention? Debate below. Number 7. You know his name from history books, but the true story of America's most famous midnight rider will shock you. This is Paul Revere, 1735 to 1818, and his real legacy goes far beyond that one legendary ride. Here's the untold story. Contrary to popular belief, Revere never actually shouted, "The British are coming." That's right, the famous phrase was invented later. Why? Because Revere wasn't just making a dramatic announcement. He was running a sophisticated spy operation. As a member of the Sons of Liberty, this Boston silversmith by day was a revolutionary mastermind by night. His carefully planned April 18th, 1775 midnight ride wasn't just about warning colonists. It was about coordinating an entire resistance movement. But Revere's greatest weapon wasn't his horse, it was propaganda. His deliberately exaggerated engraving of the Boston Massacre became revolutionary America's first viral image, turning colonial opinion decisively against British rule. After the war, he became an industrial pioneer, opening one of America's first copper rolling mills. Today, Revere's name represents both patriotic courage and media savvy. So we have to ask, in our digital age, would Paul Revere be breaking news on Twitter or leaking secrets on the dark web? What do you think, influencer or hacker? Let us know in the comments. Love them or hate them, these 7 men shaped a nation against all odds. But here's the real question. Were they heroes or hypocrites? Did they live up to their own ideals? Drop a comment with the founder who shocked you the most. Washington, Jefferson, or maybe Hamilton. And if you want more unfiltered history brought to life by AI, smash that subscribe button to History Comes Alive. Because next week, we're exposing the secrets of the American Revolution. Don't forget to like and share. Until then, stay curious. Part 2. The Revolutionary Heroes. What if I told you the American Revolution wasn't won by generals and politicians alone? That hidden behind the history books are 7 unlikely heroes whose courage, words, and sacrifices lit the fuse of freedom? A college dropout who defied an empire with a single speech. A penniless writer whose words sparked a revolution. A smuggler who bankrolled independence with his fortune. A failed brewer turned mastermind of rebellion. A seamstress who may, or may not, have stitched America's soul into a flag. A teenage French aristocrat who became Washington's secret weapon. And a battlefield legend who fought harder than the men beside her. They weren't just founders. They were rebels, outcasts, visionaries. And without them, there'd be no America. This is the story you weren't taught. The revolution you never knew. 7 heroes, 7 episodes. One question. Would you have had the courage to stand with them? Let's get started. Number 1. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a president. But his words started a war. Patrick Henry, 1736 to 1799. The forgotten founding father whose fiery speeches lit the fuse of the American Revolution. While names like Washington and Jefferson dominate history books, it was Henry's voice that first dared to challenge the British Empire and win. But here's what makes him fascinating. This revolutionary hero was a college dropout who failed at farming and storekeeping. His law career began only after just 6 weeks of study. Yet when he stood before Virginia's House of Burgesses in 1765, his attack on the Stamp Act marked him as Britain's most dangerous colonial critic. Then came March 23, 1775. As tensions with Britain reached the breaking point, Henry delivered perhaps the most consequential speech in American history. Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. Within weeks, the Revolutionary War began. Henry would become Virginia's first governor, but refused to attend the Constitutional Convention, fearing centralized power. Ironically, his anti-federalist push led directly to the Bill of Rights. So we have to ask, Was Patrick Henry the most influential founding father nobody talks about? Could America have won independence without him? Number 2. What if I told you the most influential writer of the American Revolution died penniless and hated? This is the tragic yet triumphant story of Thomas Paine, the man whose words literally created a nation. Born in 1737 England as a failed corset maker, Paine arrived in America in 1774 with nothing but radical ideas. Just 2 years later, his 47-page pamphlet Common Sense would sell over 500,000 copies, the equivalent of 75 million copies today, convincing ordinary colonists that independence wasn't just possible, but necessary. His follow-up work, The American Crisis, inspired Washington's troops to cross the Delaware with its immortal opening. These are the times that try men's souls. Yet this revolutionary hero would become America's first canceled figure. Why? Because Paine never stopped fighting for what he believed, whether attacking slavery, demanding welfare for the poor, or criticizing organized religion in the Age of Reason. His scathing criticism of George Washington made powerful enemies. When he died in 1809, only 6 mourners came to his funeral. But history has vindicated Paine. His ideas about democracy, human rights, and social justice became the foundation of modern America. So tell me, was Thomas Paine a visionary ahead of his time? Or was he simply too radical for the world he helped create? Let's debate in the comments. Number 3. This man's signature was so bold, it became slang for your name. But John Hancock, 1737 to 1793, was far more than just a fancy autograph. He was a smuggler, the richest man in America, and the bankroll behind the revolution. Born into wealth, Hancock inherited a shipping empire at just 27. But when Britain slapped taxes on tea and goods, he turned pirate, smuggling Dutch tea to dodge the crown's tariffs. The British hated him. Then came 1775. Hancock was elected president of the Continental Congress. His mission? Unite 13 colonies against the mightiest empire on earth. And when the Declaration of Independence was drafted, Hancock signed first and largest as a taunt to King George. But here's what textbooks skip. Hancock's fortune paid for guns, ships, and Washington's army. The British put a 500-pound bounty on his head, over $150,000 today. He later became Massachusetts' first governor, but died in debt, having spent everything on freedom. Yet today, we reduce him to a signature meme. The man who bought America's independence, remembered for penmanship. Was Hancock a hero or a glorified sugar daddy for revolution? And would you have risked your fortune? Debate below. Number 4. What if I told you the American Revolution didn't start with a battle, but with a bankrupt beer brewer? Meet Samuel Adams, the man who turned protest into revolution. Born in 1722, Samuel Adams was the architect of American resistance. While others debated, he acted. He organized the Boston Tea Party, dumping 342 chests of British tea into the harbor. His fiery essays united the colonies under one slogan: no taxation without representation. Here's the twist. Before becoming a revolutionary, Adams was a failure. His family's brewery went bankrupt. Yet this struggle made him dangerous, because he understood the people's rage. While elites hesitated, Adams rallied farmers and workers. By 1776, Britain called him public enemy number 1. To Americans, a hero. His genius was in storytelling. He turned local protests into a national movement. Without Adams, there might have been no Sons of Liberty, no Continental Congress, perhaps no Declaration of Independence. Just another British colony. He died in 1803, but his legacy lives on, from the beer bearing his name to America's spirit of defiance. Adams risked everything for freedom. Would you have stood with him or stayed silent? Let us know below. And for more stories of America's rebels, watch Founding Fathers of America next. Number 5. She's the woman behind America's most iconic symbol. But did Betsy Ross really sew the first flag? The truth might shock you. Betsy Ross, born January 1st, 1752, died January 30th, 1836. A Philadelphia seamstress, a widow, and a rebel. But how did she become a legend? The year was 1776. The American Revolution raged, and a secret committee, including George Washington, needed a flag to unite the colonies. Legend says they knocked on Betsy's door. But here's the twist. There's zero historical proof Betsy designed the stars and stripes. No documents, no receipts, just a story her grandson told, 94 years later. Yet, Betsy's legacy survives. Why? Because she embodied the revolution spirit. She defied the British, buried 2 husbands lost to war, and ran her own business in a man's world. That flag, whether she sewed it or not, it became a symbol of resilience, just like her. So, do you think Betsy Ross's story is fact or folklore? Drop a United States if you believe she's the flag's true creator. Number 6. He was a French teenager who defied his king, sailed to America, and became a Revolutionary War legend. But how did a 19-year-old aristocrat help defeat the British? This is the unbelievable story of Marquis de Lafayette. Asterisk, Marie-Joseph Paul Yves Roch Gilbert du Motier, Marquis de Lafayette, 1757 to 1834, wasn't your average nobleman. Born into wealth, he risked everything to join the American Revolution against King Louis XVI's orders. At just 19, he bought a ship, evaded royal agents, and landed in South Carolina in 1777, demanding to fight for freedom. General Washington was skeptical, until Lafayette proved himself at the Battle of Brandywine, taking a bullet to the leg, but rallying troops like a veteran. His passion earned him the nickname the Hero of Two Worlds and Washington's trust. By 1781, his tactics trapped British General Cornwallis at Yorktown, securing America's victory. But here's the twist. Lafayette wasn't done. Back in France, he helped ignite another revolution in 1789, co-writing the Declaration of the Rights of Man. Yet, his idealism nearly got him killed when radicals turned on him. Lafayette fought for liberty on 2 continents. But which revolution do you think defined his legacy? Was it America's independence or France's upheaval? Comment below. Number 7. She wasn't just a battlefield hero, she was a revolution. This is the untold story of Molly Pitcher. Mary Ludwig Hayes, better known as Molly Pitcher, was born October 13th, 1754, and died January 22nd, 1832. But why does her legend outlive her? During the Battle of Monmouth, 1778, Molly did the unthinkable. While British cannons rained fire, she sprinted through gunfire, not with a musket, but with a pitcher of water. Her mission? Cooling down sweltering Continental Army soldiers. That's how she earned her name, Molly Pitcher. But here's the plot twist. Where her husband collapsed from heat stroke, Molly didn't flee. She grabbed his cannon and started firing. General Washington himself witnessed her bravery, later granting her a soldier's pension. Was she the only woman on the battlefield? No, but Molly became a symbol, proof that the American Revolution needed everyone. So, here's a question for you. Could the U.S. have one without unsung heroes like Molly? Seven stories, 7 sparks that ignited a revolution. From Patrick Henry's fiery words to Molly Pitcher's battlefield bravery, these weren't just heroes. They were ordinary people who chose to do extraordinary things. They risked everything, their fortunes, their lives, even their legacies, for one radical idea, that freedom was worth fighting for. But here's the real question. If you'd lived then, would you have stood with them? Or would history have forgotten you too? Freedom isn't given. It's taken by the brave. Want more untold stories? The revolution was just the beginning. Next week, we're diving into the wild, visionary minds who built America, from frontier rebels to industrial titans. Don't miss Visionaries and Trailblazers of America. Smash that subscribe button. History's got secrets left to tell. Which hero inspired you most? Part 3. The Visionaries and Trailblazers. They defied impossible odds, fought against tyranny, rewrote history itself. These are the untold stories of the 7 visionaries who didn't just shape America, they forged it. A president who waged war to unite a broken nation. A slave who outsmarted his oppressors with a pen. A woman who arrested herself for voting. A frontier legend who rode lightning. A spy who weaponized freedom. A teenage girl who outsmarted the wilderness. And a president who ruled with pure defiance. Their choices changed everything. But at what cost? This isn't just history. It's the explosive truth behind the icons you thought you knew. Subscribe now. One story drops daily. And by the end, you'll answer one burning question. Would you have had their courage? Or would history have forgotten you? Comment below, and let's find out. Number 1. He saved a nation, but at what cost? This is the story of Abraham Lincoln, the man who defied death, betrayal, and his own demons to become a legend. Born in a log cabin in 1809, Lincoln rose from poverty to the presidency. But his journey wasn't just about power. It was about survival. Assassination plots, civil war, and personal tragedy haunted him. Yet against all odds, he became the leader America desperately needed. When the nation split in two, Lincoln faced an impossible choice. Let the South secede or fight to preserve the Union. His decision? Va. But here's the twist. Lincoln didn't just fight to save America. He fought to redefine it. In 1863, he dropped a bombshell, the Emancipation Proclamation. Overnight, millions were freed. But Lincoln paid the price. Death threats multiplied, yet he refused to back down. Why? Because he believed democracy could not survive with slavery. On April 14, 1865, just days after victory, Lincoln was shot. The man who saved the Union gone. But his legacy? Unshakable. He proved one leader could change everything. So here's the question. Could America have survived without Lincoln? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories of history's greatest trailblazers. Number 2. He was born into slavery, but died a global icon. This is the unbelievable story of Frederick Douglass, the man who outsmarted oppression and changed America forever. Frederick Douglass, 1818 to 1895, wasn't supposed to be a legend. Born a slave in Maryland, he was forbidden to even read. But at age 12, he traded bread for literacy lessons from local boys. Those secret lessons ignited a mind so sharp, his slave owner warned, education ruined slaves. By 20, Douglass disguised himself as a sailor and escaped to freedom. But he didn't stop there. His 1845 autobiography shocked the world, proving slavery's brutality through his genius. Southerners called it a lie, asking, how could a former slave write so eloquently? Douglass became the most photographed American of the 1800s, using his image to redefine black dignity. He advised Lincoln, fought for women's rights, and famously said, power concedes nothing without demand. Douglass believed knowledge is the pathway to freedom. What's one book you'd risk everything to read? Number 3. She was arrested for voting. Fined $100, over $2,000 today, and became the face of a revolution. This is Susan B. Anthony, the woman who dared to demand equality. Born in 1820, Susan B. Anthony died in 1906, but not before changing America forever. A teacher turned abolitionist, she fought slavery before shifting to women's rights. Why? Because in 1872, she voted illegally, declaring, I'll never pay a penny of your unjust fine. Her bold act sparked a movement. Partnering with Elizabeth Cady Stanton, she co-founded the National Woman Suffrage Association, wrote newspapers, and gave 100-plus speeches yearly, in an era when women weren't even allowed to speak in public. Yet victory came 14 years after her death with the 19th Amendment. A twist of history? Absolutely. But her legacy lives on. The Susan B. Anthony Dollar, countless schools, and your right to vote. If you met Susan, what would you ask her? Drop your question below. We think she'd love the debate. Number 4. He was a war hero who became president, but his legacy is one of America's most controversial. This is Andrew Jackson, the man who shaped a nation with a fist of iron. Born in 1767, orphaned by war, Andrew Jackson clawed his way from poverty to the White House. A general who crushed the British at New Orleans in 1815, he was nicknamed Old Hickory for his unbreakable will. But here's the twist. Jackson wasn't just a hero, he was a polarizing force. As the 7th U.S. president, he expanded democracy, yet owned enslaved people. He defied banks, but forced Native Americans off their lands in the brutal Trail of Tears. Love him or hate him, Jackson reshaped America. He fought duels, survived assassination attempts, and ruled with sheer defiance. When he died in 1845, his legacy was cemented, a warrior president who played by his own rules. So, was Andrew Jackson a visionary leader or a tyrant in democracy's clothing? Drop your take in the comments. Should history celebrate or condemn him? Number 5. He was a sharpshooter, a war hero, and a man so legendary, they said he could ride a bolt of lightning. But who was Davy Crockett? Born in 1786, Davy Crockett wasn't just a frontiersman, he was a force of nature. By age 12, he ran away from home, surviving the wilderness alone. By 30, he was a Tennessee congressman. But his real fame? The Alamo. Here's the twist. Crockett wasn't just a fighter, he was a storyteller. His wild tales made him a folk hero before newspapers even existed. But in 1836, he faced his final stand. Outnumbered 10-1, Crockett and 200 men held the Alamo for 13 days against thousands. He died a legend at 49, but did he go down swinging? Some say he surrendered. Others swear he fought to the last bullet. Crockett's legacy? The ultimate American underdog. A man who proved courage outlives death. So tell us, would you have stood with him at the Alamo? Comment below. Subscribe for more untold legends. Number 6. What if I told you a woman who was once property became the U.S. government's first woman to lead an armed raid? This is Harriet Tubman, born a slave, died a legend. Born Araminta Ross around 1822 in Maryland, Harriet Tubman escaped slavery in 1849, but she didn't stop there. Risking her life, she became the Moses of her people, making 13 daring trips back to the South, freeing over 70 enslaved people via the Underground Railroad. But here's the plot twist. Tubman wasn't just a conductor. During the Civil War, she was a Union spy scouting Confederate territory. In 1863, she masterminded the Combahee River Raid, freeing 750-plus slaves in a single night. The U.S. government paid her just $200 for 3 years of service. Tubman fought for women's suffrage, donated land for a home for the elderly, and died in 1913 as one of America's greatest heroes. If you'd been born into Tubman's world, would you have had her courage? Comment pido? Number 7. They conquered uncharted wilderness with the help of a teenage girl who knew the land better than any map. But here's the twist. Sacagawea wasn't even supposed to be there. Meriwether Lewis, 1774 to 1809, and William Clark, 1770 to 1838, were tasked by President Jefferson to explore the Louisiana Purchase. Their mission? Map a route to the Pacific. But in 1805, they hit a wall, until a 16-year-old Shoshone woman, Sacagawea, circa 1788 to 1812, changed everything. Kidnapped as a child, sold to a French trapper, and pregnant when she joined the expedition. Sacagawea became their secret weapon. She negotiated with tribes, forded raging rivers, and even saved critical supplies from capsizing. Without her, Lewis and Clark might have vanished into the wilderness. Yet history almost erased her. Clark's journals called her Janie. Only later did her real name and legacy resurface. She symbolized resilience, bridging cultures in a land hungry for expansion. Was Sacagawea the true hero of the expedition? Drop your thoughts below. Lewis and Clark got the fame. But did she pay the price? 7 lives, 7 legacies, 1 unshakable truth. They prove that a single person, flawed, fearless, and fighting, can bend the arc of history. But remember this, they weren't just heroes. They were human. They doubted. They bled. They paid the price. So tell us, which of these 7 spoke to you? The rebel? The liberator? The martyr? Or the one still waiting to be written? Drop your answer below, because history isn't finished. Next week, meet the gladiators and emperors with the Rome's darkest secrets. Don't look away. 21 stories. 21 sparks that ignited a nation. From Washington's resolve to Tubman's defiance, these weren't just heroes. They were flawed, fierce, and utterly human. They risked everything, their fortunes, their lives, even their families, for an idea that freedom was worth fighting for. But here's the truth. Freedom isn't given. The rebels who shaped America's dark side. Smash subscribe, because the revolution's just getting started. Comment below, which hero would you follow in a battle?